What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below, as usual. This one is entitled, Why is Pan-Africanism Held to a Higher Standard? In lieu of the Umar Johnson situation, I made a video a long time ago when he got into the situation with the stripper chick that people ask too much for people in his position, and because from what I saw back then, I thought it was ridiculous, and I'm gonna get into the reasons why. And then O'Shea hit me to the thing that he said he was practicing celibacy, and see, that's when I was like, Umar, what are you doing? Like, I didn't know that, so that contradiction just made me like, this guy's tripping. But I'm not one of those people who's going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. So what I'm about to get into is the idea that, we're holding Pan-Africanism, civil rights leaders, all this to high standards. Rightfully so. But we also as a community got to realize that we don't treat these people well. So we have to be careful on our hypocritical bipolar ideology, like they need to be something that we're not as a group. So I'm gonna get to that part first. When it comes to people who are Pan-Africanist, civil rights leaders, leaders. When it comes to our people, we don't treat our leaders well when they're ahead of the curve or when they're on point. See, people forget that Malcolm X had pushback. Marcus Garvey had traitors. I don't necessarily know too much about Medgar Evers to say that he had internal people strifing with him, but the way history goes, I wouldn't be surprised. As far as Frederick Douglass and W.E.B. Du Bois, right? Or Du Bois, however you want to call it. They're a riff. I think I said MLK, or King Jr. How quick we turn on people like Jesse Jackson. Fred Hampton, of course, Huey Newton. And even when you watch the Birth of a Nation movie, the Nat Turner situation of how, his own people sold him out. That type of thing, when it comes to Pan-Africanism or black people just working together or working towards a goal, we have always treated the men on the forefront as enemies and left them alone and distrusted them. And then after they're either dead or time has passed on, we like, oh, it was right. Like Dr. Henry Clark, Amos Wilson isn't looked at, and the way he was looked at then, or they were looked at then, is different from the reverence we have towards them now. Francis Cress Wilson, the same thing. When people are talking truth, we as a community have a problem with it. And to a degree, that's why Pan-Africanism is held to a high standard, because some of us don't want to admit we don't want to be self-sufficient. So the minute somebody puts forth the opportunity for us to be self-sufficient, and I'm not even talking about outside influence and outside sabotage, I'm talking about people within our group who really don't want to see us progress. And some people think it's like crabs in a barrel mentality. And all the crabs are trying to get out the barrel. I think, and barrels aren't a crab's natural habitat, as Lord Jamal once said. But I also think the people that you would consider crabs in a barrel, they never wanted to get out the barrel. They just want you in there with them, right? So that becomes a problem. And you hear these people in our community years after time goes on, like, damn, we shouldn't have did that. Like, to this day, why is the nation not as dominant as it could be? Because of the Malcolm X thing. Not saying the nation killed Malcolm, but why civil rights? Why didn't we have more civil rights leaders and more leaders like Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers? Because people capitulated because they were scared to be put out there on an island on their own and get killed. Nobody wanted to die. You know, I remember Dick Gregory talking about Martin Luther King and this picture with him and Martin Luther King when Martin looked troubled. And he was like, you know, Martin told me, Dick Gregory said, Martin told me that they're going to kill him. And Dick Gregory's answer was, well, better you than me. Though he was a comedian, you know, that's not. But that's the problem, because we have these high standards, because guess what? It has to be perfect when we do it. You know, when we want to make something out of nothing, it has to be perfect. It has to cover all bases, which I understand, but then I don't. Because I understand we have to be perfect, and this is referencing Umar's won the $4 million for the school, which personally I'd be like, man, look, get an itemized list of how everything goes, and let the people donate accordingly. But he wanted the perfect situation, perfect school, perfect area, perfect this, perfect that, and nothing's gonna be perfect, even though you have to do that with our people, because we don't want to watch something grow. We want it to be perfect from the jump. And because we as a group want it to be perfect from the jump, we're looking for somebody to create perfect out of thin air, and then and not contribute until it's up and running, and it's basically a machine, and then show up. Like, no, nobody else does that. You know, nobody else does that. You know, you're gonna have to go through the bumps in the roads and deal with the struggles that go along the way with growing, if you really have a passion and a belief for something. But also, you know, why is Pan-Africanism held to a higher standard? It's because there have been a lot of people over the years pimping our progress. So, and unfortunately, we as a people don't want to admit, we have no problems giving the people who pimp our community a pass, because that's what we assume that they do, and we support the people that pimp our community, and when we give them passes. But when somebody says that's not what I'm about, then all the scrutiny and skepticism comes into play, which unfortunately leaves us stagnant. This is why we're stuck in a lot of the situations that we're in today, because we're not willing to try, we're not willing to fail, which means we're not willing to succeed. You know, because we already know we're going to have outside sabotage, we're going to have other ethnicities scream bloody murder and try to sabotage with white people or without white people, and then we got our own people from within who are going to give, if they're involved, may give a half-assed effort because they don't believe in this stuff, but they say we need it, or we say we need it, but we really don't get behind it like we should. So it makes Pan-Africanism, you know, it has to have a huge high standard, and I think it's an unrealistic standard. You know, as far as Umar goes, I mean, I think people who are trying to get his credentials stripped from him, I think y'all ain't shit. Because, and here's the thing, in defense of him, How many times does he have to say his credentials? You know, and now in order to get them stripped, that means you checked on them, you verified them, you know they real, and now you pushing to get them stripped. Now, the problem with that is, though you may not like his methods, or you may not like him, 5, 10 years from now, well, the black men that would do such and such and such and such. Black men gonna say, here's another. See how you did, Umar? Now, do I think I don't think he should have been having all these social media blow ups, because he's a psychologist and he should know, but we're all human beings. We're gonna have our moments of just being human and making mistakes. But unfortunately, decorum of a Pan-Africanist is going to be held to a high standard also. You can't just have blow-ups, and that's a lot of pressure, having to be damn near perfect to get stuff done. And if you're not perfect, people are skeptical when we're a flawed community at best. So it's like, how high does the standard have to be? And I think to the point where we won't admit that, we won't say how high the standard actually has to be, because we don't want anybody to meet it. Because if we actually put a definite stance on where the bar should be for the people we should follow, 2 things would happen. 1, we would realize how many people who met the bar and exceeded the bar we turned our back on, and 2, we would see how many people who nowhere near that bar, we support them unequivocally with complete utter loyalty, even if they're low lives. So, maybe I should change this to should Pan-Africanism be held to a higher standard. That's what I'm probably going to do. But my issue with all of this is very simple. If we all say we want to get from under this oppression, we actually have to really take a good hard look at what is in our best interest. And at least Umar's idea was in our best interest. Maybe not the way he went about it, as far as the not necessarily having a plan, because I think he had not having an itemized plan. That's what I would say, because saying it and having it on paper is 2 different things, because people gotta keep going back and forth to see, to hear you speak about what the plan is and not look at it. So when people don't have no reference point to go to, but what you talked about in the video, it doesn't send out a good message. But at the same time, I understand it, because guess what? It's a lot of people who've said a whole lot less than we've supported. It's a lot of free mile whatever t-shirts, RP t-shirts, but we got to get out of that, man. Because everybody else has built over the years, and they didn't build in a perfect situation. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't cool. So we got to get back to how we were in Reconstruction, when we took whatever we had and we made do, and we made it better. And I think that's the only way to get ahead, because you can't just, you got to crawl before you walk. You can't just go out into you can't just go from crawling to flying. It just doesn't work that way. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. We out.